I gotta say, real quick, Tabor, you can eulogize me, right? At my funeral? That opening. I am here on the TCU podcast to once and for all put an end to people saying that I defended Alex Jones. I did not defend Alex Jones. It feels like Alex Jones somehow has always been tapped into being able to just make that shit up on the fly. Like, I think he would have been a great pulp novelist. He is a wordsmith when it comes to crazy shit.
How do you tell those stories in a YouTube video, though? Because aren't you going to kind of piss off a lot of people on either side?
There always needs to be more studies.
And then better studies for those, and then better peer reviews for those, and then analyze who did the peer review and how that study went. And it is just a spiral. I believe in the spiral of science. Hey, welcome to the Create Unknown, the home of Make Something Mean Something. I am Kevin Lieber, and I am here on TCU night, Wednesday night, 6 p.m. Eastern. We are live on Discord. We have some lurkers hanging out with us and listening for free. We have, of course, our patrons chatting with us in the chat. We have our dumpster crew, our infantry, our baby gang, our $2 tots. Did you know that you could buy a year's worth of $2 tots for $20? That's it. That's less than like 21 objects that cost $1, which is an amazing deal. With me, as always, is Matthew Tabor. How did you like my my math there? Was that good?
That was good. Yeah, I was wondering what you were going to compare it to, and I was thinking like, video games are way over $20 unless they're like bargain bin awful ones. Yeah, so you surprised me a bit with 21 things at the dollar store, but that's good. I like that. Mm-hmm. You'd fill a basket with utter trash. Much better to be a tot and gain all the prestige that comes with that. Right. There's no choking hazard on being a tot like there is with so many of those dollar store items. You can't trust them. But before we get going, I want to shout out many kudos because what day is today? Today's Wednesday because it's TCU night. So Monday it must have been. He finally hit 100,000. And it's just been amazing. We talked to him about about this journey and where it started. Meeting him when he was in the hundreds, seeing him do everything right and grind and work hard and get a couple breaks. And then it's 5,000 and 10,000 and blows up to 50 and 60. 100,000 is a big milestone. So seeing him go from the beginning to that is honestly, it's what we want to see a lot more of. So congratulations to many kudos on 6 figures.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's a lot of subscribers. And he did a really nice little tweet thanking a bunch of people who helped him along the way, including our very own Matthew Tabor for all of the advice.
Yeah, I was in the third tweet, though. He listed like 3 rounds people, and I was in last tier. So
save the best for last. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah. Hopefully he rethinks his priorities for the 250,000 milestone.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see. So, let us know about our guest today. I don't know if you wanted to talk about our mics. Are we still talking about our mics? Have they said anything about the Vsauce 2 appearance at all?
They ask nothing from us. They demand nothing, which is this is the best relationship ever because Electro Voice threw us some amazing mics and just said, like, we want you to use them. We want you to talk about them for better or worse. And that's it. You're not required to do anything. So anytime we mention it, it is purely because we want to. We are not contractually obligated to do anything at all. That's amazing. But yeah, we're still using them. We still like them. The RE20s, really, I think they've been the best fit for us. The 320 is bright. That's very good. But yeah, I think the RE20 is the classic for a reason. And you're still using that one, right?
Yeah, it is a nice relationship. It's like, here's this amazing product, and now we will never speak again. It's a perfect sponsorship.
But yeah, everything we say is because we want to. But yeah, I do feel a little bit silly for not going harder on high end mics many years ago. We had some really good Rode mics, and that was cool. But before that, I just didn't think it mattered that much. And I had a mid-range kind of thing, and it would have been worth the money like 10 years ago in various projects to go hard. So whether it's something that's like the RE20 Electro Voice or something else, go with quality. It's just one of those things. You got to sound good. You got to sound good in every video.
Yeah. Audio is more important than video. I think we've said it a lot of times on this podcast.
Yeah. Well, we have somebody to talk to today, and you may be familiar with the biblical Magi, the three wise men who visited Jesus after his birth, each bearing special gifts. What you may not know is the story of the YouTube Magi who visited a sweet-faced Somali boy and armed him with a set of talents that have culminated in his appearance on the Create Unknown today. Oki's Weird Stories owes his name to the OKI Electric Industries Company in Japan, and aficionados of obsolete technology and older nerds will remember the OKI data dot matrix printers in the 1980s. But we have to assume that the three YouTube legends blessed our little Oki with special abilities fresh out of the womb. From Internet Historian, he received the craft of long-form narrative about subjects you didn't know you cared about. From our very own Kevin of Vsauce 2, he was rewarded with the drive for exacting in-depth research and analysis. And from Justin Whang, he was graced with a unique irreverence and penchant for an entertaining approach to topics like whether chemicals in water make frogs gay, the singularly insane story of John McAfee, and the special relationship between Kim Jong-un and Dennis Rodman. The result is a wildly successful channel right in the midst of blowing up. Nearly 250,000 subscribers right now, and by year's end, it's going to be at least twice that. I would not be surprised if it was 3 times or more. And venturing deeper into his passion of film analysis, his podcast with the Kino Corner, who is no stranger around the Create Unknown, is called the Kinocast, and it's off to an excellent start. Friday's episode just released is with Ghost Gum. Oki has had a few minor conflicts along the way, including almost having his channel nuked. But the only real criticism we've ever seen is that people desperately want more videos. Assuming you wouldn't get banned, sued, or blacklisted, Oki, what is the one topic you wish you could make a video about?
Oh, wow. You're going to hit me with that kind of question.
We're going to go big.
Something that I wish I could talk about? You know what?
Yeah. I mean, all the banned subjects, like, let's assume that you have complete and total free reign with no repercussions of any kind, socially, economically, anything.
I bet there's like, I actually, you know what? I don't even know, there's no, I'm sorry. I don't really have a good answer for you there. There have been topics where I'm like, oh, okay, well, I can't really talk about that because, on YouTube, you can't talk about war, you can't talk about drugs or whatever.
Right.
But apparently those rules are changing now. So I think it's opened up, and I will be able to venture into more like mature topics pretty soon. I don't know if you guys saw that update.
No.
Yeah.
What did it
it's
say?
Nice that they're going to like informational channels, factual channels. We had a guy on, Sean Malone from Out of Frame, the YouTube channel, that was about 2 years ago. We talked about Stranger Things, but his videos do touch on current themes, whether it's political or economic. They're all in movies and TV shows, but by definition, you kind of have to mention history and things like war and bad things, pandemics and this and that. YouTube has finally realize that there are decent people making non-inflammatory content about those subjects, and they won't be demonetized. They won't be dinged in any way. I think in March they announced that this would happen, but I don't think it's in full force yet. But yeah, that'll help everybody from Out of Frame all the way to the Oki style videos kind of choose their topics as they want to, rather than dancing around sensitive issues.
I gotta say, real quick, Tabor, you can eulogize me, right? At my funeral? That opening was really,
Oh my God.
it was really
Well, it depends.
something. You're talking about like, there's like a Jesus parallel there or something. The three, the three wise men. Am I Jesus? What?
Well, you're a combination. Well, the alternative. So I was thinking about this, and I was like, if it were a combination of just two, then you can go with these two people had a baby angle, But with three distinct angles, like who's fertilizing who in that scenario? Kevin, you answered that question because you were one of them. Like, which role do you want to play in that one?
Oh, which role do I want to play? What is the third
if you're
role?
making a YouTube baby with internet historian and Justin Whang, how do you want to do this?
I don't know. So are two of the sperm spliced together? How does that? I don't know what the biology is that we're following.
There's got to be some kind of fusion.
Let's just say you guys made me in the lab.
Yeah, I'll be the scientist who just put it all together. That works for me.
Three men and an Okie, and Kevin, you're Ted Danson in that one.
By the way, you know who directed Three Men and a Baby? This is something that surprised me each time I remember this. Leonard Nimoy, Spock from Star Trek.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. He directed that movie, which is like just kind of random.
What?
Yeah.
I'm Googling this to doubly verify. Yeah. Wow. The Guardian article from 2015 confirms it. That's crazy.
I'm good being Ted Danson in that scenario too. I'd rather be Ted Danson than Tom Selleck or Steve Gutenberg. Yeah. Ted Danson is the winner of the three.
Whang is Tom Selleck because of mustache. There's no way around it. And I guess that leaves internet historian as Steve Gutenberg.
I think that's okay. I think that's okay. He's the funniest one, and Ted Danson is funnier than Steve Gutenberg. Well, he's just gonna have to deal with it.
You've opened a can of worms there, Kevin.
Yeah. Wait, on which side? On the internet historian Whang side, or on the Steve Gutenberg Ted Danson side? Who's the most upset by this analogy?
By comparing Whang to Tom Selleck, I think we've guaranteed that he will never come back on this podcast.
No, I think he'll be back. He'll want to record tomorrow. I think he'd love that.
I feel like Tom Selleck's kind of
you
badass,
really are.
Though.
Well, he is. Magnum PI gets you a lot of street cred through the years, doesn't it?
Just that mustache alone,
Yeah.
It's,
has
that 80s
you see, he looks like clean shaven.
Man, I'm looking through
Google
he
looks so much younger without the mustache.
Google images of him, and it's just like that kind of 80s where he's like, there's like press photos, glamour photos where it's just his shirt's open and it just shows the rug on his chest. And this guy, he's all man.
That's right.
Back then,
he was a pioneer. Yeah,
all of his fans would be like, "Please fuck my daughter." Like that's.
Oh God. We're devolving already, but back to the intro on that. You really are a combination of kind of three sets of channels where you do the deep dives, you do really extensive research, and you make it worth watching and make it funny. The Gay Frogs one is a great example of this because that's a kind of funny topic. There's a lot of science that's quite serious in it, and you've got to tell a long story with a crazy cast of characters. So how did that one come up? How did you begin on whether our drinking water is turning frogs gay?
Oh, okay. So, huge fan of Alex Jones. I go on band.video almost every single morning. Love to listen to him. I find him hilarious. I think he's like probably one of the greatest entertainers right now, at least. So I was talking to I was looking for topics at that time, and I was talking to this guy, this war journalist called Jake Hanrahan. I've had him on my channel before, so we were DMing, and I was just like, "Hey, have you ever heard anything that might work for my channel?" And we're just talking, and like he was like, "Yeah," he suggested that I talk about this kind of like obscure blog or something, and then it just kind of came to me in the moment. I'm like, I'm going to talk about gay frogs. So yeah, that's pretty much how it started. And then I found this I found this New Yorker article about the scientist Tyrone Hayes, and it just seemed so interesting because Tyrone Hayes is kind of like he's such a character, and he doesn't seem entirely reliable. And there's so many. If you just look up Tyrone Hayes or you look up gay frogs or atrazine, you're gonna find as many articles that say yes, this is real, as there are that are criticizing his science. So I was just like, I want to find the truth of this, and I want to kind of dissect Alex Jones, what he said, and what he was implying by that, and yeah. So then that it set me on like a 4-month journey of just reading through EPA reports and looking for scientific articles and just a lot of digging. So
that started with Alex Jones giving kind of a throwaway line, right? Like he didn't do a full episode. If I remember right, he mentioned it like in a sentence and it went from there. Is that how it happened?
So yeah, if you watch my video, he's pretty much just talking about how the leftists and the globalists are trying to, biologically change people. So he's talking about like holograms in the sky, and like he's listing off headlines on articles, and then finally he doesn't even find an article that says gay frogs. He just he brings it up. He's like, you think it's funny? Well, no, they're turning the freaking frogs gay, and just like the whole statement there is it's fundamentally flawed. So a lot of people think that like I made a video that supports what Alex Jones says. It didn't, and I say that in my video. I remember like I did a live stream one time, and some guy's like, "Wow, you really legitimized Alex Jones," and I'm like, "No, I didn't." But like if you look at that statement, it's like they are turning the freaking frogs gay. Who are they? There is no nefarious they. There's no globalist committee who's just putting their fucking Dick Dastardly and just like putting chemicals in the water and just being like a cartoon villain. No, that doesn't exist. It's agricultural runoff. So you use atrazine, you apply to these cornfields, and then what happens is that it goes into the water and a lot of other chemicals too, and it creates this chemical soup, and it affects the hormones of frogs. But not only that, it affects a whole litany of other things. It's not just that in some cases, yeah, you get frogs that are intersex. I mean, you get frogs that are deformed in many other ways as well. So it's not there is no direct like cause and effect here, right? There's a whole host of issues with all of these different chemicals, and there's no nefarious plot, which is what Alex Jones heavily implies. And I am here on the TCU podcast to once and for all put an end to people saying that I defended Alex Jones. I did not defend Alex Jones.
We're going to have Ben edit that out because we just want to keep the myth going.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. Look at you.
Are you sure you're not a globalist? Let me ask you though, because you did start off this talking about really liking him and watching him every day. I don't know if that was a joke or if you're serious. If it's serious,
I love him.
Okay, well, why? Because I've never watched his show before, but for people who only have kind of like a tangential idea of who this person is, he's well known for being kind of public enemy number one on social media and being banned everywhere. I do recall years and years ago, like literally probably, 14 years ago, I remember a friend of mine who was obsessed with listening to his show. It really did damage to him because he believed the conspiracy theory stuff, the stuff you're talking about, like the shadowy figure, puppet master pulling the strings stuff. Like he really bought into it in a way that was seriously harmful to him. So just overall, like, what do you think about you taking Alex Jones to be like a dark comedian, I'm guessing, whereas other people buy into it and it has harmful effects on them?
I mean, yeah, of course. I think that I can hold both opinions in mind, right? It's not one or the other. Like I am aware that this guy he's pushing like a doomsday narrative onto really uh impressionable people, and it does cause harm, and he profits off of that, right? So he's definitely a grifter in that light, but at the same time he is one of the greatest entertainers of I would say like the past 20 years. Like this guy, if you ever listen to Alex Jones talk, he kind of has like this almost like L. Ron Hubbard. You guys are familiar with like the Scientology guy, L. Ron Hubbard, right? So like L. Ron Hubbard used to write science fiction novels. And he was incredibly prolific. He wrote like thousands of science fiction novels. And he would come up with these grand narratives, and they would all be like, these interdimensional aliens and all these things. And just the language, that kind of pulp language, it feels like Alex Jones somehow has always been tapped into being able to just make that shit up on the fly. Like, I think he would have been a great pulp novelist, because you listen to him talk, and he's going off about fucking Molochs and vampiric, parasitic, child predators, and just the adjectives and verbs that he uses, and the string of words that he uses. He is a wordsmith when it comes to crazy shit. So I just listen to him, and it's like music to my ears. The way he's able to just make that shit up on the fly, it really is. I really hope that people, like, if listen to what I'm saying, go listen to like an episode, and any episode. If he's fucking hungover, he got like 3 hours of sleep the previous night, he's still going to be able to nail that shit. He's really good at that, and I really, I almost have like a twisted respect for his ability to do that.
He is a grinder. I mean, he's been pushing this hard for a very long time. And I remember installing Winamp on an old notebook almost 20 years ago. And at the time it had Winamp TV, and there really was no streaming at all of any kind back then. And that was one of the first things. And there was like a Prison Planet Alex Jones channel that just streamed conspiracy documentaries 24 hours a day. He's he's really been doing this a long, long time.
It is strange that, like, within this, so even 5 years ago, conspiracy theories, they seemed harmless. But I guess because of the way that there's a narrative that's pushed now, that like it is like extremely dangerous. But if you really think about it, who are the people who get into it, right? So a lot of them are, like I said, very impressionable or schizophrenic, right? Or they have some other mental illness. It's funny that like we've gone so long where like something like the History Channel existed on just pushing the stupidest conspiracy theories for the past like 10 years. No one batted an eye, but now it's like with the rise of Trump, we're all doomed because of these conspiracy QAnon people who are just gonna, like, they're gonna kill people and they're gonna do domestic terrorism. And yes, that happens, but at the same time, I don't know if conspiracy theories are as dangerous as it's being posited. I still think they're funny. I enjoy them. I mean, one of the things that I hate about conspiracy theories these days is that you look them up, and I'm just looking to just have fun and hear some crazy shit. And what happens is that it's all political, and I feel like once you mix the politics in it, then it gets really fucking boring,
It stops being a standalone story then, and once it's weaving into reality, that takes a little bit of the fun out of it.
Yeah, and it's all steeped in this kind of, especially now, you look at the QAnon people, they're all obsessed with like the pedophiles, and Hillary Clinton is gonna, she's harvesting the adrenochrome of babies, and it's just boring and it's fucking lame. It's stupid and lame. I want to hear about ancient aliens, man. So I want to bring that back.
I don't remember. I'm trying to think back to the video because it was a little while ago when you put this out. But what was the explanation given for why the mysterious they, were trying to make frogs gay? Like, what was the ultimate purpose for putting the atrazine in the water?
Oh, the way that Alex Jones said it?
Yeah, like what were they?
Okay,
what is the driver that the conspiracy
So the way
theorists
what
believe?
Alex Jones was trying to do is he's trying to freak people out and be like, yeah, all your kids are going to turn gay because look, the frogs are turning gay. There's no evidence that they're turning gay. You know, there's there are frogs that they become intersex. Some of them, not all the time. There's plenty of studies that show this. So it's endocrine disruption is what's happening. It's disrupting the hormones, but it's not. I don't think that there's like right before he even talks about that, he's talking about the gay bomb, the gay bomb, baby.
Oh,
That's what he
yes.
said, right. And yeah, he's just trying to freak his audience out who are all homophobic, right? So they're all freaked out about that. And then you bring kids into the mix, that's going to freak the fuck out of these types of people, right? And it's all theater. That's what he was doing. That's what he does. And
in the gay bomb, that was the claimed U.S. military research into like a sound wave kind of thing that would make opposing soldiers stop wanting to fight and start wanting to do other things in the trenches.
Yeah, so they did do that. They looked into that, but I mean the fucking in the 50s, the plenty of agencies in especially like the Army or the CIA or the FBI, they looked into a bunch of stupid shit like dolphins with lasers on their heads and pigeons that can shoot poisonous darts. Like they looked into a whole bunch of things. That I remember one time there's one plot that they tried to get one of Fidel Castro's cigars and to put dynamite in it so it blows up and kills him. So, I mean, they looked into a whole bunch of stuff, and especially in the 50s, like they think, well, if all the soldiers turn gay, then they can't carry a gun because they're sissies. Like it's that kind of 1950s thinking. Where it's like, well, they're going to be banging each other the whole time, Like, I don't know. There's just that's the 1950s. I don't know, but I don't know why they would think that. I remember there was some explanation why it's like. Why they wanted to develop a gay bomb, and I think it was to disrupt the enemy combatants. But I don't know how making them gay will disrupt their ability to shoot a gun or fulfill their duties as a soldier. I don't see any correlation between those things. But, anyway,
it does rest on a whole bunch of assumptions and dominoes falling exactly in a certain way.
It's like, yeah, and that's kind of like what I look for a lot when I'm doing these videos, like that kind of Saturday morning cartoon thinking. It's just so funny to me.
Well, Kevin, do you remember, I forget which video we were looking at, but it was one of the math videos and it was about statistical aberrations. Do you remember the thing about the power lines causing health problems? Do you remember that example?
I wish that I did. I don't. No, I don't remember that at all.
There was I think it was in Australia where, they do a study saying, does living near or under power lines cause problems? Well, they measured like 800 possible problems, all these different types of cancers. It was tons of them. And the result they got was like, yeah, living under power lines has clearly shows that you're at risk for, developing X, Y, and Z. Well, the problem is that they measured so many things that it was statistically probable that a couple of them were going to be outliers, that they were going to jack crazy stats because, if 1 in 1,000 things seriously deviate from the expected outcome and you measure 1,000, well, 1 or 2 of them is going to be out there. And it's one of those things where you look at that data and it seems extremely compelling, but there's a plausible explanation for why it's really not the case. And I wonder about that with the conspiracy stuff, where there are elements to it that are compelling enough to make the non fringe people buy into it. And I wondered what you thought, if any of them were true. Like if you had to choose one that you think is real and compelling, is there any?
Are you asking me or are you asking Kevin?
Yeah.
You're asking me. Okay. If there's anything that's true and compelling, well, I think that like the UFO stuff is pretty reasonable at this point. I mean, you have the DOJ and they released these, I think there was like 2 videos UFO videos, and then just recently, like 3 weeks ago, there was another UFO video that was released by the U.S. military. But going back, actually, there's something that I was really interested in what you were talking about. So there's so many different things in the environment that if you look at one thing like a power line, for example, you're going to have so many different elements that all contribute to something. And you can do a study and you can be like, oh, well, the power lines are causing cancer, but no, it could also be like a litany of other things. But at the same time, you have to understand that everything in our environment is toxic. So this is something that a toxicologist I was talking to when I was making the Gay Frogs video told me. It's like, everything is toxic. What the question is how much, and does it outweigh its benefits, right? So if the toxicity outweighs the benefits that we get from this thing, well, that is part of that is something that you have to deal with in modern society, because everything fucking causes cancer these days. So, ketchup causes cancer. You can't just wrap yourself up in bubble wrap and hope that you don't interact with something just because you read a headline saying it causes cancer. You can write a headline about fucking everything causing cancer, right? So I think that's what people need to be aware of. The benefits should outweigh the negatives of something, right? Or the adverse effects of something.
Yeah, I wanted to go back a second to talk about the conspiracy stuff and just get both of your guys' take on I'm trying to think of how to phrase this, but essentially, we can talk and laugh about Alex Jones making these remarks and he's a clown, and it doesn't bother us. But I wonder to what degree, like to put it how you just put it, like the adverse effects of this guy outweigh the benefits of it being funny to the types of people who think it's funny. Now, I'm not saying I know the answer to this because I don't, and I don't know much about him, but clearly, like, all of the tech leaders have decided that the adverse effects outweigh the benefits of it being like entertaining and hilarious and him being a wordsmith. I'd love to hear both of your thoughts on that, and what would be an example, if any, of somebody worse than him doing, real damage through their broadcasting, let's say.
Well, I mean, like ISIS would be. So, like, if you want to talk about it, like, I think that ISIS videos should be deplatformed, beheading videos. ISIS propaganda, the kind of shit that gets kids to go to Syria to fight for the caliphate, should be deplatformed and banned, right? But at the end of the day, I don't know if Alex Jones. I think Alex Jones is just like a symptom of a larger problem, but I don't know if that problem is as severe as the mainstream media and also as the tech giants Silicon Valley makes him out to be.
Mm-hmm.
What about people who really truly believe stuff that turns out to be wildly wrong and destructive? Like,
I think that's their prerogative. I mean, you look in your country. I'm Canadian, right? And we also have this here. We have freedom of religion, right? And you do as well. It's a lot of things. If you're a Jehovah's Witness, for example, I mean, it's your right to deny your kids blood transfusions even if they have a severe medical disorder. It's a huge problem, but we have to realize that there are going to be people who prescribe to certain beliefs, and I mean you can't control everybody. You can't babysit people. Well, to that extent.
Yeah, the example that's coming up in my head is a hybrid of a lot of the things we're talking about. So I got to get the first name right. Trofim Lysenko. You get this phrase Lysenkoism in biology and genetics. And Trofim Lysenko directed agriculture in the Soviet Union in the 30s and 40s. And he completely and totally rejected genetics of all kinds. And he thought that that plants were like people in the sense that you could expose them to harsh conditions. They would learn to tolerate those conditions, and then their offspring would be prepared to deal with those conditions. So in terms of agriculture, that meant like subjecting plants to freezing temperatures, even though they shouldn't. And they, if they live through it and learn to tolerate it, then cuttings from those plants, seeds from those plants will have inherited those characteristics. This is complete bullshit in every possible way. And Stalin and the Soviet Union totally lied about crop yields, and they said this is a tremendous success. Well, what actually happened was shocking in terms of how poorly the Union was able to to pull value out of its land. Even with massive increases in acreage, they were getting even less out of it because of these bullshit theories. That killed a lot of people. That killed many, many, many people in terms of famine and food supply, and probably sickness that was a result of weird diets and malnutrition. Alex Jones probably doesn't kill anybody.
Yeah.
I feel like if he pushes Pizzagate, there might be some problems from that on a very small scale. But a guy who lied about whether corn could tolerate cold, that killed hundreds of thousands, if not more.
Yeah.
So I have trouble figuring out, who the problem is, who the real conspiracy damaging people are.
I think that
I just can't shake that.
Disinformation is always going to be an issue, and like you said, your example is just so much more severe than any effects of what Alex Jones has put out into the world. And I can't believe I'm on this podcast defending Alex Jones, because I don't want to defend Alex Jones. Alex Jones is an unconscionable bastard who grifts for a living and pretty much just uses mentally ill people and freaks them out so they can buy his products, so they can prepare for the time that the globalist takeover happens, right? And the FEMA camps are all set up and ready to take their kids. Like, this is a guy who starts, like, for the past year, all of his broadcasts start with a siren. It's an emergency broadcast. It starts with this wailing siren, and this is the narrative that he's pushing onto people, and it's all because he wants to profit off of it. And so I don't want to defend this guy, but at the same time, I kind of like him. I kind of like what he does. I kind of like that he exists, and I find him funny. So like I said earlier, I think that I can exist holding these two separate things in mind.
Matt, what your story reminds me of is, did you see the Netflix documentary? I think it's called The Pharmacist, the guy who took on the OxyContin. It reminds me of that, where these people, the people making OxyContin, and then subsequently the people just handing it out like candy, literally killed. Yeah. I don't even know how many people. How many people died of overdoses based upon that? Well,
it's still ongoing.
Yeah.
I mean, in places like where I live, the opioid epidemic is a very real thing. And I know several people who've had their lives negatively affected by something that they probably shouldn't have had back then, but now definitely would not be prescribed.
And let me ask you something. Will mainstream media and Silicon Valley people deplatform Purdue Pharma? No, they won't. Why? Because they're all involved with them financially. Alex Jones is like, I'm sure he's a relatively wealthy man, but he does have a very comparative to something like Purdue. Like, he doesn't have the Washington D.C. clout that they have. He doesn't have the lobbyists on their side. He doesn't have all this, even though they're the ones who killed like millions of people and ruined lives and completely wiped out towns and cities. These are people that their board of executives walk off scot-free. They in fact, they end up becoming part of Washington, D.C. That's the sickness of America, I think, especially. It's just the the where it's the corporations and people who really don't care about anything other than profits, and how they become intertwined with the political establishment, and how they get positions on in like different like Obama, for example, or Trump. These are the people who are hired to lead agencies, to be on his chiefs of staff. That's it's a real sickness, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It definitely seems like we tend to focus on the weirdest things. When I was watching your channel earlier today, and I was thinking about stories that I know about that I feel like, you know what, if Vsauce 2 really was like Kevin's weird stories, one thing that freaks me out, okay, that nobody talks about is the recycling industry. So I don't know if anybody has read any NPR and Frontline put out this like years long piece only a few months ago that no one I have ever seen talk about, which just lists like the origins of the idea of recycling dating back to the companies who make plastics, realizing that people felt bad about plastics being so harmful for the environment. So they were like, oh, okay, well, we'll just create this idea of recycling and you guys won't feel so bad buying all this plastic stuff. So it goes through like how they created the recycling industry and like the blue bins and you return the thing here and blah, 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 knowing full well that I think less than 10% of plastic is even viable scientifically for recycling. Like you can't just melt it down and turn it into like a new Pepsi bottle. It doesn't work.
And you know what they do to that 90% that they can't recycle? They send it to third world countries to be burnt. There's a whole industry just sending it to these. Yeah. Like they send it to the Philippines or they send it to Kenya or whatever. And it just, those countries buy or are paid to take it and they burn it. That's what they do.
It's an efficient way to dispose of it.
Yeah. And nobody seems to care. Like I know how important so many people that I know personally, colleagues of mine, take environmental issues. And I don't know. We just collectively throw our hands up about this recycling thing being a farce.
It's a fundamentally unsexy topic. It's just something that people don't like. They couldn't be fucked about, like, watching a PBS documentary about recycling. People don't have enough time in the day to be freaked out about all of the world's problems. And you get into that mindset.
But they have enough time in the day to pound their chest and celebrate the fact that they recycle.
I don't know, like, if there's that many people who are literally pounding their chests and celebrating it. I think that people have accepted it as something that they're supposed to do, like just like turning out the lights or whatever. But at the same time, I don't know if there's anybody that passionate about it, right? They just think this is the right thing to do. It's a very easy thing to like virtue signal about, but I don't know if anybody's like that wrapped up in it.
I remember living in a place that I don't want to dox this state, but they have things like VidCons there and Disney's and
well, you just gave it away.
all sorts of things like that. But they mandated this spot that I lived in mandated that you separate your stuff to the nth degree. It was like color coded receptacles for like 5 different things.
Oh, dude, that's like here in Toronto too. Like I'm in Toronto, Ontario, right? And
okay,
I just try and fucking throw shit out, and I have to look at a guide to like know what goes into what. I have 3 different bins, so.
I was kind of late at rushing to get it out by the deadline when they were going to pick it up, and I got there right when they were picking it up, and the guy just took all 5 of the bins and dumped them in the same truck.
Yeah,
and when that happened, I was like, I've seen people meticulously sorting these things out just so they can get thrown in literally the same trash compactor. And I thought, what is happening?
Well, we get
Why is this
warnings
even a thing?
and sometimes fines here. So we'll be warned if your stuff isn't. So we have different trucks that come for different bins. We get warned if we fuck it up.
I have a question about kind of the double. Unless Kevin, did you have more on recycling?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I do recycle, and like I'm not against it. What I have a problem with is just
I hate it.
that. Well, I understand why you're saying it's not a sexy topic because nobody wants to admit that it has huge fundamental flaws, and nobody wants to admit that if the origins for it were under dubious circumstances, like it reminds me of campaigns that like the tobacco industry does. It's like, oh, smoking is bad, but anyway, we have to do this, but buy cigarettes anyway. It's almost the same thing where it's like, oh, you feel bad about plastics, well, just recycle it, and then you will live in this story that we're kind of telling you, where your plastic egg carton will be rebirthed as a soda bottle, and then that will be rebirthed as like a backpack. But it's not true.
I mean,
and it's weird.
Imagine putting the onus on just random citizens when you have multi-billion-dollar corporations who are fracking, who, like, you look at the BP oil spills, you have these companies they're the ones who are fucking things up, and they're the ones who own regulatory agencies. And they're the ones who have the money to lobby and to get their things passed. The EPA is a fucking joke. It was a joke when Obama was in office, and it was even more of a joke when Trump was in office, because Trump, he was like talking about bringing back mercury, like let's burn mercury, like that. That's how far it went with Trump. But like the people who run the EPA since like the Clinton administration. Actually, by the way, it was Richard Nixon who started the EPA, and it kind of worked for a while until it changed under Ronald Reagan. But like under Clinton, Obama, Bush, and Trump, what you see is the people who are running the EPA are these Fortune 500 company former CEOs who were all like, they ran agrochemical companies, or they ran fracking companies. These are the people who are invested, and they have peers who are willing to give them money or to peddle their influence in order to get this person who's running the EPA to just push their thing through the regulatory system without any checks and balances. So you pretty much, it's like you just gave it to them, right? That's what happened. And I don't understand how that system could be in place and no one realizes that. Maybe they do realize this, but it seems like no one realizes the conflicts of interest in place when you give these CEOs of these energy companies just free reign. It's ridiculous, I think.
Yeah.
All of this kind of adds up into an issue that I know we noted here to talk about. Kevin just mentioned tobacco companies, and I think that's a really interesting example of pretty much everything we've talked about so far, because you have the misleading companies that spent a lot of years and a lot of money manipulating the science about how harmful smoking was, how addictive nicotine was. You also have people on the other side who have overreacted a bit. We got some pretty bad science about the threat of secondhand smoke. It was like the worst thing in the world in the 80s. Like, I remember things in school in the 80s and 90s where it was like, if a parent, smokes a cigarette in a car and a child is in the back seat, that child would be dead before they get home. Like, it was weirdly grim, and turned out not to be nearly the threat that it seemed. It's not like it's a good thing. People who have conditions like asthma certainly suffer from poor air quality. places like casinos have installed monstrous air filtration systems, not just for the guests, but for employees. If you're a blackjack dealer, you can secondhand smoke about 98 cartons a day. But both sides have played kind of fast and loose with the truth. What do you do? What do you do when that's the case? When there's some important issue that affects a lot of people, and it's difficult to know what reality is because both sides are exaggerating.
That's a fantastic question. So that's the issue with activism in general. So you have two sides of the extreme. So you have someone who's has an ideological bent on eradicating a certain phenomenon in society, an activist, and then you have someone who is so stuck on the profit motivation, which is the company who manufactures something like cigarettes, right? So then you have two people on polar ends of the spectrum, right? Activists, the issue with a lot of them is they tend to exaggerate almost as much as companies. So your example about secondhand smoke, I don't know about the science of secondhand smoke. Before you even brought that up, I haven't really thought about it that much, other than to say, listen, kids, smoking's good for you. Popeye smoked cigarettes and he ate spinach. No, I'm fucking with you. I'm joking. No, but in all honesty, I think that is the fundamental flaw with activism and activists in general is they are very prone to exaggeration.
How do you tell those stories in a YouTube video though? Because aren't you going to kind of piss off a lot of people on either side? Like if you make that recycling thing, that video, people are going to internalize that and feel attacked. I remember there's a program in the U.S. called Head Start. It's a federal program that is kind of like a preschool thing for generally underprivileged kids. The gains from Head Start, they seem to have evened out by about second grade. And research came out about this. It's hotly debated, but I find that argument compelling. And I mentioned this to a woman who was involved in her local Head Start program, and she burst into tears. She really took it personally, like it was the most offensive thing that I had ever said to her.
Yeah.
And the whole time I'd known her. And it was just like, I look at that and think, hey, if it's not happening the way you think it is, well, that you need to make some tweaks. Like you want to know this so that you can do it better. But she took it as invalidating what her life stood
work.
For.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it hits a chord with her where it's like, this is what it was her life's work. I think that there are, like, you can't make something for everybody, right? So the other day I had, because like in my Jacob Wohl video, I talked about grifters, and then I showed Sargon of Akkad and Milo Yiannopoulos.
Yep.
And I had a Patreon person DM me and be like, hey, I really like your content, but I can't believe you did that. It really rubbed me the wrong way. And I'm like, dude, I can't placate to everybody. Like, my opinions are going to be in this thing, right? And look, I think that even separate from that, the woman you're talking about, for example, she's not someone who is ready to hear that, because what happens with people when they hear something that invalidates something like their life's work is they go through a process called cognitive dissonance. And that is something that really, it causes trauma to people. It causes extreme stress. So when they go through that, you just can't expect someone going through something like that to be rational and to hear you out. All they see is an enemy. There's this weird thing that happens with people that I've noticed is, say, we're in a less civilized society. If you have a difference of opinion on certain things, especially something that really strikes a chord with people, they might honestly be willing to kill you because you have that difference of opinion. It reminds me when I was in, for example, Zambia. I was staying with my cousins, and personally, like, I'm an atheist, right? And I mentioned that. I was really young, and I mentioned that to all my cousins who are fundamentally, Muslim, and they attacked me. Mm-hmm. They pinned me down, and they got mad.
They physically attacked you.
Vitriolic rage because I mentioned that, right? So there are certain things that people are just not ready for. Can't you can't get everybody with the things that you put out. But I think that what people aim for is the people who are kind of open for that bridge over towards like your perception of things. Like, and I am someone that genuinely believes that no one totally knows the right answer to a lot of these like ideas, right? So there are some things that are objective, but there's way more things that aren't. And you got to, it's all persuasion, and some people are ready to be persuaded and others aren't.
Yeah, I was going to say that, everybody lives in a story, or really a lot of stories. Who knows how many stories we all like play out and live within. And Matt, you basically told the lady from the Head Start that her story was wrong. And you don't know what to do with that. No, I'm not saying you meant to. Of course not. But that's what happened. And she doesn't know what to do with that information. And I feel the same way with the recycling thing, where we are in this story that this is like an important thing to save the environment and blah, 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 blah. And if you say, hey, like this was, started by these plastics companies as a way to get you to buy more plastic, people would just throw their hands up and say, well, I don't know what to do with that information. I don't know. I can't change my story now. And if I were to change my story, what would I change it to? It reminds me, going back, I've told this story on this podcast before about the encounter I had where I naively was explaining to someone about how step counters are the idea of like 10,000 steps a day is just this made up marketing thing that's like an accidental number based on no science whatsoever. And the pushback I got, which I thought was like a fun anecdote, like, hey, did you know that 10,000 steps a day is made up and based on nothing? That's what happened. It was the same situation where it was like, well, what do you mean? Well, I think you don't think it's good. You don't think it's healthy to do 10,000 steps a day. And I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't realize I was like piercing the veil of your story about how you're like dedicated to these 10,000 steps a day, and how that cognitive dissonance kicks in. And now like I'm a jerk, and I felt like a jerk. I felt like a jerk for like imparting a bit, like a tiny bit of trivia that I had learned recently. And now all of a sudden I'm a jerk.
You know who's really phenomenal at crafting these kind of like narratives and using like pop science to bolster them is a guy named Malcolm Gladwell. I don't know if you guys are familiar with.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So
right.
he
wrote Blink and
that's like his
Tipping Point.
His bread and butter is like the 10,000 hour rule. To become an expert, you have to spend 10,000 hours in a certain craft, which is a completely arbitrary number. And the idea that it takes, yes, I am at 9,999 hours. One more hour that I gotta become an expert. Completely disregarding the idea of like, having a mentor or, studying the craft or figuring things out in a way that typically, experts actually have to go through. It's like, oh yeah, I spent 10,000 hours reading medical books, and now I'm a doctor, independent of any kind of schooling. That 10,000 hour rule thing. But for some reason, people use that as it's like a biblical message for some people. It's like, yes, I only need to fulfill those 10,000 hours. God, it kind of reminds me of like this kind of thinking that some people have. I notice it, especially like within my generation and Zoomers as well, where it's like the idea that it's almost like gamifying your life. Like you have to grind out so many hours to get what you need.
Level up.
It's just, it's all arbitrary, and it's just a story to tell yourself. And it's, I can see it as being beneficial. Work hard, spend this much hours, put the time in, you'll get to where you want to get to. But the idea that it
could be worse. Yeah.
But the idea that this is anything but a story to tell yourself is ridiculous.
Kevin, I want to dox some of your thoughts and work here. I'm actually going to double dox you. Okay. Did you release the TikTok about Popeye? Is that one out yet?
The one about
Do you know?
spinach being a lie.
Yeah.
I don't think it's out yet, but you can
be soon.
spoil it for our listeners.
Yeah. Spoilers, TikTok, Vsauce 2 TikTok fans. Two things happened in the last couple weeks that really combined to throw my mind for a loop. They're totally unrelated, but the first one is the myth that spinach had a lot of iron in it and would make you strong and healthy. It turns out that in the original research about spinach, a decimal was in the wrong place, and it was off by a factor of 10.
Huh.
And nobody bothered to question this or figure it out until the 70s. Spinach is loaded with very good things. It's awesome. It is nutritionally dense. It's just a banging vegetable as far as those things go. But that claim that Popeye was based on is complete bullshit. Yeah, it's nuts. And you think, well, look, 100 years, and this just went on, and how many people believed it? How many people made mundane purchases based on it? It made its way into entertainment, into how kids think about. Just look, the effects, the spider web here is crazy over this.
My grandpa would literally tell me a story about a guy that he was in the army with who would eat a spinach sandwich for lunch every day, and he was like the strongest guy in the army. That's a real story that my grandpa told me when I was like, I don't know, 4 or 5.
That reminds me of the milk calcium myth, where apparently, like, so you drink enough milk, and I mean, it goes back to what I was talking about earlier about, like, yeah, everything's toxic. There's benefits and adverse risks. But, like, you know, the high protein count, there's other studies that say, yeah, this can cause osteoporosis. So it's like, but there's this myth, right. It's like it causes strong bones. And I don't know, you know, It is funny that, like, a lot of these I kind of almost think about them like wives' tales. You know, I don't know if you're familiar with that term, wives' tale.
Yeah,
it's kind of like that. You know, it's just this thing. It gets passed around throughout culture, and it's like, and it also can seem like ridiculous, like something like milk. I wonder, like, if there's other cultures that hear that and just like, oh, well, that sounds really stupid, but in North America it works. Like, you hear about like Korean fan death. Like, Koreans believe that, like, if you have a fan on your desk and you fall asleep, you can die. Like, that's a myth that's that was propagated in South Korea. It's just this kind of ridiculous thing that just, you know, it's like this game of telephone / wives' tale thing that, yeah, it propagates and it spreads, and it's probably bullshit.
And it's too good to check along the way. Like, I mean, look, if somebody tells you that there's a ton of iron in spinach, which, by the way, there are elements of spinach that make iron absorption even harder. So it's not only wrong, it's like wrong in the opposite way. But you don't hear a spinach iron statistic and think, I'm going to be skeptical about that. Let's get to the real truth, and I will triple check this. No, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, and go along with it. But that was the first part. The second part that I wanted to dox, and Kevin, I don't know if you're willing to talk about this yet, because there may very well be some future work in it. But you were talking the other day with me about comments you get on videos with probability. About people having trouble distinguishing the nuances of probability in reducing it to things like two outcomes, like a binary outcome. Are you okay with talking about this?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think any of our listeners will usurp the idea or anything like that. But I think we could still make the video. But this is not a new thing. I've been doing probability videos for a while now, and I always get this comment that essentially boils down to there is no such thing as probability aside from 50-50. Like, a thing either happens or doesn't. So, like, if you're shooting hoops, the ball either goes in the hoop or it doesn't. So the chances that you shoot a 3-pointer and you make it are 50-50. Okay. Clearly that's absurd, or else everyone in the NBA, or else I could be in the NBA, because like I would have the same chances as Steph Curry of like draining 3-pointers because we'd both be 50% shooters. So obviously this is wrong, because it's confusing the outcome of a situation with the probability of it happening. Those are not the same thing, but for some reason people conflate the two and just turn it into an amalgam of one set of odds, which is it either happens or it doesn't. And I think that there are a lot of weird things going on in people's brains and how they like parse information that I think we could think about, at least to some degree, with that confusion. Because to me, that seems like not a hard thing to understand. Like if you take the shell game, okay? So the shell game, you have 3 shells on a table, and under one of them, is a quarter, and you have to choose one of the 3 shells. Well, your odds of picking the one with the quarter under it are clearly 1 in 3, not 50-50, because there are,
Right.
it's 1 out of 3. That is a different percentage. But yeah, for whatever reason, it's prevalent. This is not like the odd remark over the years. It's all the time. And the people who leave this comment are so confident in their like ownage of me that they're kind of going out of their way to, do that actually thing. And I'm like, actually, you are really wrong about this in a very simple and fundamental way.
Don't you just hate that?
And Oki, I want to throw this to you. I want to combine it all and throw it to you, Oki. This is what happened like in the same week. The week that you agreed to come on, we booked you. This is a few weeks ago. That's when all of these things happened in the same week. It made for a terrible week. Other than the guest booking, that was pretty sweet. But the dissonance and mind screwing really added up. And I was thinking, okay, we've got this guy who does these deep dives, gets to the bottom of both sides. What do you do when you've got the one side that is minimizing something? They're exaggerating in one way. The opposite side is over exaggerating. You can't really trust that. Then you've got the Popeye level things where people make honest mistakes that don't get questioned. And then you have all of these people who have kind of a limited, narrow conception of how to process information. How can you figure anything complex out?
So that's
how can anything get processed?
So like with my Gay Frogs video, for example, I mean, that's why I talk to people who are directly involved with the EPA risk assessment. So I talked to the guy who ran the 2012 EPA risk assessment. I talked to people who were colleagues with Tyrone Hayes, the scientist who Alex Jones was citing. I talked to experts. And that's where I felt comfortable with being able to put what I put out into the world. So like I really did my due diligence. Like I made sure that, I dotted my I's and crossed my T's. And talked to experts and looked at the EPA reports and looked for the most objective sources. There is always going to be a narrative with the way that people present things. It goes back to what we're talking about, things that are sexy, not sexy, topics that are. I mean, and some people want to have a fun narrative that people can accept, or a wild narrative like the frogs are turning gay because of the globalists or whatever. But at the end of the day, things are far more nuanced than any of that. And I would suggest that anybody who listens to this podcast really be wary of bite-sized science or bite-sized ideas that are very easy to comprehend and take in and accept, because nothing is that simple. Things are nuanced and difficult to grasp, and that's why you have people who devote their whole lives to studying a certain phenomena in a certain field. Never that simple.
How many papers have you read, Kevin, where the blurb in the press release is just radically different from the actual thing? I know we've mentioned that before.
Oh, it's constant. It's constant. It kills me.
Yeah.
I did a whole video about junk science, and there are levels to problems with junk science and with science funding and with getting good science right. And I'm not even the person to speak about this, like, by any stretch of the imagination. There are people a million times more qualified than I, but like in a very cursory way, one of the problems is, like pop science creating some sort of headline that's like, eating dark chocolate helps you lose weight.
I hate that.
It's like, okay, really? I don't think that's true. And then it's like, no, it's not true. This is like, that study was literally fabricated by an angry scientist to prove that they could get something published by, some schlocky media company, and who would run with the headline because they know people will click on it. So that's the thing. It's like, people, that industry runs on advertisements and they run on clicks. So the headline's got to be compelling. So it's like, oh, coffee gives you cancer. Coffee drinkers live longer. It's all this contradictory stuff all the time that, Oki's completely right that everyone's first line of defense for any of those headlines should be, I don't know about that. Like, it should be like a huge hammer of skepticism right away. But there's also stuff that, like, you talk about in the frog video where scientists can get bullied by people with a lot of influence and with a lot of money, and they can make science that they don't want out there kind of go away and not talked about and ignored. And that's a big problem too. Or science research is based upon grants and getting funding to do your studies. And if nobody wants to fund the thing that you're trying to study, well, you have no ability to do so. So you're also, scientists are heavily influenced, like, naturally, by having to kind of cater to what sort of things to study that will actually get them funding to do so. So there's no, like, easy way to solve any of this because it's so complex and there are so many moving parts.
I think that so there is, like, you're 100% right. So the people, I don't know how many people realize that how political science is, and just being able to do certain studies. And it's funny that Tyrone Hayes, who's the gay frog scientist, right? The reason he was able to do his initial studies, where he found his findings, was because he was working for Syngenta, the company that produces atrazine, which is the chemical that Alex Jones is talking about that turns the frogs gay. So he was working for them, right? And he found these findings, and then they were like, they wanted to bury it, and he took the noble route, and he decided to publish them anyway and re-verify them. And there was a whole kerfuffle because he didn't meet these industry standards, right? So they have these standards, and because of those standards, the EPA threw out every single study except for the Syngenta, the company that hired Tyrone Hayes initially. They threw out every single study except for the studies done by Syngenta, because they didn't meet these protocols. Good laboratory process protocols is what they're called. But it's just like I say in my video, it is pretty much a way to just manipulate the science so that what the company says it ends up being king. So yeah, I think that a lot of scientists struggle to find the grants that they need. If a topic isn't something that is going to get headlines, if a topic isn't something that's going to be extremely revolutionary and change the world, it's just not sexy. It's not something that people care about. And I think that the academic institutions, for some reason, they also feel the same way, and they don't necessarily fund those studies. And there is a real, you have to be political. You have to lobby to get your your studies done, if it's not something that's going to be immediately obvious and exciting to people. It's a goddamn shame, really, because people are under the impression that science is just this totally objective field, and when for a lot of reasons, and I don't want to just say it like outright. Oh, it's not, because I think that scientists do try to be objective, but there are a lot of hurdles to pass, and things change, and people can't, like something with COVID, for example. Someone's like making fun of Fauci because, oh, he said something a year ago that's different than now. When it comes to COVID reporting, it's like, what, are you fucking stupid pointing that out? Like, that's actually the stupidest thing to point out, because of course the science changes, and there needs to be additional testing and additional studies done. And there's a progression to it. So the idea that, like, oh, science is just bullshit because Fauci said something a year ago that doesn't fall in line with what he's saying now, that is so fucking dumb, and it really irritates me. I don't know what.
But the problem is that you're right. It is always evolving. We're always learning more. But then you have all these people shouting phrases like, trust the science, and like, I believe in science. Yeah. And it's like, what does that mean? Because if you understand that science is just a discipline for reducing uncertainty, then you need to understand that that's an ongoing process. And it's not set in stone. It's you can't hang your hat on. I mean, what have we talked about over the last hour are like the amount of things from spinach to cigarettes that have like changed dramatically over the past couple of generations, done a 180. And I think that there is a messaging problem where you will have lots of people like beating each other over the head and staking their claim on like the side of science, when it's like you literally can't do that. Like, that's not how science works. I do think
that like the whole like, I trust science, and I want to, like, there's women, like, literally I've seen women on Twitter, like, they post Fauci's like, he's so hot, I want to fuck him. Like, shit like that, where he goes so far.
What?
It's virtue signaling, right? It's just this kind of weird. It's this weird thing that happens. It is like, it's very simplistic view of the world and what's actually happening. But at the same time, look, there's a lot of people who trust random fucking people on YouTube more than they trust like actual institutions, especially in America, like the CDC. I'm
one of them. I would trust a video from you or Kevin or Whang or Internet Historian or Coffee Break, who does an excellent job with, debunking things. God, there is a long, long list of people who I would trust over a press release from the CDC. I know that sounds crazy, and it sounds like,
no, I don't think it sounds
like
crazy.
A very anti-intellectual thing.
I don't think it sounds even anti-intellectual. I just wonder, like, so when it comes to like something like the CDC, the premier, like, pretty much medical agency, and what you're, so I mean, what are you left to trust other than that? And like, why YouTubers? Why someone? I'm just trying to understand like your mindset there. Like, why kind of like independent people who are making stuff online rather than, a legitimate source, or probably
Sure.
the most, what is supposed to be the most. Do you think that they have a certain agenda, or are they trying to push a certain thing?
I think they're wrong a lot about all sorts of things. And this is not like so much a science thing. It's not a CDC thing. A long time ago, I mean, I was a kid, a book came out, and a family member was in it, was profiled in this book. And there's a family photo of his generation. It was a while back. And it listed the brothers and sisters in this family photo. Now, this was an academic book. It was put out by an academic press by a long-standing historian and sociologist. Serious guy is what I'm trying to get at. And I knew from this photo, because again, it was an old family photo, that the subject being profiled in the book was not in the goddamn photo. He wasn't born yet. And it was all completely mislabeled. And this is somebody who did 10 years of interviews, who was serious about their scholarly work, and there was a mistake in it. And that mistake made it all the way to publishing. Nobody at any point fact-checked that. He didn't have an assistant to catch his errors like that. The editors didn't do it. That stuck with me, even though I was a kid. And I thought, okay, people screw up, even when they don't mean to. That wasn't malicious, as far as I know. Maybe he did say, well, we need a photo on page 141. Let's fib on this one. But I don't think so. I think it was an honest mistake. But then I started to see a lot of those mistakes as I knew more. As I got to know more things, it was easier to spot things I knew not to be true. And a thing that really stuck to me was when I found out about the Gell-Mann amnesia effect. So Murray Gell-Mann was a Nobel laureate in physics. He was a mentor of Sheldon Glashow, who was also a Nobel laureate in physics, who was a mentor of mine. And so he would tell stories about Murray Gell-Mann, and then Michael Crichton blew up this amnesia effect thing. And the basics of it is that when you know a subject really well, you read a story in the newspaper that you know is factually incorrect or the take on it is wrong. You know it's bullshit. And then you flip the page and read a story about something outside your area of expertise and completely believe it. Like, you forget the fact that you've just uncovered a systematic screw up that you know is wrong. And then you flip the page and again have full faith. Well, I haven't been able to have full faith in very much. So when I see somebody who takes a question as frivolous as what's this, makes frogs gay theory, or what happened in the development of No Man's Sky, or what is the Monty Hall problem, or what about that Russian guy that cracked a jar in his ass? How about that? When somebody is putting weeks or months, hundreds of hours into getting to the truth there for nothing, for crossing their fingers, hoping they get some subs, maybe they're at a point where they can get some AdSense that makes it worthwhile. Nobody's pressuring them to do it. They probably can't even talk about it because they don't want it to leak before they release. All of these factors give them some credibility. I think they tend to do a better job. I think they get all sides. You did a good job in the Gay Frogs video of making the Alex Jones case and making the scientific case. I like that.
So I'm going to be honest here, right? So like one of my earliest videos, the Hiro and Noda videos, I fucked up major parts of Japanese history. And I actually added it to the script.
What did you get wrong?
Just like the whole thing. Like, I ended up reading some fucking book from the 50s, which was just ended up being this racist interpretation of Japanese history, right? So this is like 2018,
okay,
right? I think that with someone like me, it's a lot easier to forgive my fuck up. But when you look at like a premier agency, you expect them to always get it right. And with something like, especially as complicated as COVID, I mean, things change daily. We're not sure what variant is what's happening, when it's gonna mutate. We don't know a lot of things, and the manpower and effort and that's being put into the research and that I don't think it's worth completely discounting. I do think, yes, there's probably a lot of political motivations to some of the stuff that they might put in the press releases. But at the end of the day, I am someone who wants to trust institutions. I want them to do their job. As a taxpayer, I want them to do what they've been assigned to do. And I want to trust them. So I guess I'm somewhat more forgiving than you from what your explanation there.
From what you're saying, I'm hearing, you give them the benefit of the doubt straight away until they prove that they don't deserve that. I think that's perfectly valid.
Think that there's a plot. I don't think that there's there's a lot of people who think that like, oh, it's a great reset and they're doing this so that they can shut down the economy, so they can change it. And, Bill Gates wants to vaccinate your children to put microchips in them and all this crazy bullshit, right?
Right.
I don't buy into that. I think that mistakes happen.
Well, that's what I'm saying too, is that I don't think there's a grand conspiracy most times. I have witnessed things that are flat out unethical. When I was in graduate school, I got an email from a professor who sent it out to everybody. They needed help with processing some data, and it was something like $15, $20 an hour, which is pretty good in, almost 20 years ago. And what they needed was somebody who was familiar with, at the time, the term was just Hispanic culture, to go through a list of names and count the Hispanic ones. And I thought, for social science research, this is completely and totally fucked up that you would assign somebody any kind of demographic based on their name. You know how many Hispanic people, Latinx, whatever term you're using, are named Smith because, the father's name was Smith and the Hispanic mother took it? You know how many Rodriguezes are just have no connection to the culture that name would be associated with? No, it's bullshit. And so they were, for whatever reason, kind of cooking the books on that study. I've seen stuff like that. It's incredibly uncommon. It really barely ever happens. But most of the time, it's the Popeye thing. Somebody has just plain made a mistake. And I don't think they mean to do it. I just see constant mistakes. That's okay. That's human nature. People are reducing probabilities to binary outcomes. They win or they lose. The shot goes in or it doesn't go in. They're putting decimals in the wrong place. They're making the wrong correlations on things like living under power lines or what in the water is causing cancer. All of these things add up to me to just not lead you to the truth, right? So there's no grand conspiracy that I see, but I have a really hard time getting a bit of information, and when it's a complex issue, like a COVID thing is
trying to find
complex.
The truth is almost like it's kind of like a flawed pursuit. It is something that happens over time. We have theories up the wazoo. We have we have the theory of relativity. We have theory of gravity. Sure. These are still theories. The literature it expands upon itself. We will never have the exact right answer. To expect the exact right answer, to expect people, especially with something like COVID, to expect them to know immediately, like in March of 2020, exactly what's happening. I think that's so. It's silly almost. It's I don't know. Like things change and there's mistakes happen.
This makes a lot of sense. Yeah, like you get more confident about things over time as you learn more, and some things you find out just kind of weren't what you thought, or were not necessary. Something my great aunt used to do was put a cap full of bleach in the sink that was filled with water and dip chicken in it. And this at the time, like in the 40s and 50s, there was that like incredibly weak bleach solution to, I don't know what you'd kill, stuff that caused like botulism or something.
Salmonella?
A lot of people did that. Salmonella, that too. Yeah. It was just like you nuke this chicken with a safe bleach solution and then eat your bleach chicken. But now I realize I don't have to dip my tendies in bleach to enjoy them safely. But that's a process. Like, and I'm comfortable with the fact that we get closer to truth and confidence as time goes on. Why isn't everybody comfortable with that? Why do people double down on this is the truth? If you don't believe it, you're a bad person. The man who purveys the truth, like a Fauci, is a sex god who I want to bone because he represents that truth that today in April 2021 I know to be perfect.
That
how
is
does
a
this
big
happen?
issue. I think that people want to just subscribe to certain beliefs. I can't believe that something like even COVID is a political thing. The idea that quarantine or wearing masks is a new phenomena. It's ridiculous. That's what people were doing in the 18th century with cholera. It's not a new thing.
Mhm.
This is something that people have been doing to stop the spread of diseases for a very, very long time. But for some reason, especially in America, it's become an ideological fixation where I wear a mask and I'm going to put that in my Twitter bio. I don't wear a mask and I'm going to put that in my Twitter bio. And it's this stupidity. I want to slap every single person who does that. I hate them. By the way, on that note, I gotta piss like a racehorse. Can I just I gotta be right back? Is that all right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, go
I gotta
ahead.
be.
No,
give
yeah,
me
it's
2
good.
seconds.
I'm laughing because at a certain point, Kevin, like episode 500, we're gonna be able to do a full episode of piss break compilations.
Yeah, either that or we're going to have a Tico bra situation with somebody or Michael Reeves. Someone's bladder bursting.
Sorry, I monologue raged. This is a rage topic for me. I've been keeping it in since 1987.
No, I know. It's you with all those trivia books too that you've been going through, where like half of the stuff in them are wrong. Yeah,
some of it is simply wrong. So one of them was, there's this page of like misheard song lyrics, and I forget what it was, but it was clearly from Sound of Silence, Simon and Garfunkel, and it credited it as Simon and Garfunkel, Bridge Over Troubled Water. And I'm like, fuck, like this. I know this is wrong. Like, what the fuck? Who let this go through? And then other times it's more like keeping a wives' tale that's too good to check. Not a simple mistake.
Right.
Okay, I'm back.
Oh,
What did I miss?
we should do a big collaboration YouTube channel where we just throw YouTubers under the bus when they get things wrong. Just end
what?
their careers.
People get things wrong. People fuck up.
Have you gotten something wrong, Kevin? Have you really kind of blown it on anything that you can think of?
In a YouTube video?
Yeah. If you have, it wasn't recent. Like, it must have been back in the day.
I mispronounce things a million times because I'm just really bad at that. That happens a lot. I have gotten like minor math things wrong. There was one where something didn't add up to a 100 in one of the videos.
Yeah, there was one in the Perando's paradox that I flat out got numbers wrong, and I remember
the numbers were just kind of wonked. The thing added up to like 101% instead of 100%. Not that I can think of that was. I mean, for
not substantially.
I
wrong,
don't know if we've talked about our process so much on Vsauce 2, but so much work goes into phrasing things in a way that is weaselly, and I don't really know what word to use other than weaselly, but it's like
that sounds like it sucks though.
Well, the point is that going back to like our science discussion earlier is that you can't definitively say a lot of things scientifically. Right. It's just not right. You cannot definitively say a lot of things in science. So what you have to do is state them in a way that doesn't make it sound like you're saying it definitively. Does that make more sense?
I would put it differently and say that you make the language match the limits of certainty that you have about something, that you can reasonably have about something. And so it's not so much tempering expectations to play it safe as really matching the appropriate language to the appropriate level of confidence. Yeah,
exactly.
Does that make sense?
No, I agree with that.
Right.
Yeah. Because I think of Weasley where it's like you're kind of like lying on a fitness supplement to make people think they're going to be ripped when they take it. Like that's the Weasley thing, or the YouTube ad to massively expand your balls.
Right.
There's probably some weasel phrasing in that. Whereas you're just respecting the limits of knowledge. And I think that's responsible.
Yeah. 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 It's not snake oil. It's just, trying to
Right.
be as accurate as possible, and not overstating the results of whatever it is.
Kevin, I have a question
discussed.
for you. Do you ever feel like you have to go with a certain idea or theory or opinion, even though sometimes you're not 100% sure about it?
Oh, this is going to get good.
Jeez. I guess,
That's
I mean, I
tough.
guess I would say I'm never 100% sure about really anything, but it just goes back to trying to reduce the uncertainty in a way that I feel confident enough to say it in a video. Yeah. I mean, that probably is the best that you can really do.
What I like about your approach, Kevin, and I think Michael and Jake do this really well also, is when there's a situation like that Oki's talking about, when that kind of thing can come up, I think what you guys tend to do is say, all right, let's go into why this is such a weird situation. Like, why is this conclusion or this question or something pushing and pulling in different directions? What's the deal with that? And that's interesting, and that's good, and that's a really at the heart of difficult issues. I think you guys do that a lot without even realizing it, which is very cool, rather than, committing to something for the sake of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, my general outlook is not to commit to almost any information. I think it's all like the best you could do is get as close to the bullseye as you can. But how many things are actually in that like center red colored bullseye? I don't know. A lot of physics stuff is in there. A lot of math stuff is in there. Everything else, I don't know, man. Like human behavior stuff, not even close.
That's all.
A lot of
yeah. Well, I love watching. I love watching the channels who talk like the body language channels. I find them so funny, where they're just like extrapolating. Like there's one channel they just talk. They'll look at Joe Rogan clips and they'll just like dissect the situation and talk about the body language, but they do it from this authoritative stance, and it's the most ridiculous thing you'll ever see. But it is very, very funny and entertaining.
It's like handwriting analysis.
Oh God, it's like you see how the way he moved his hand there. He's shook. He's really scared in this moment. Oh, he's feeling insecure because he looked down in this moment. Like I was watching one with Joe Rogan and I think it was Kyle Kalinske. Maybe not Kyle. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Or no, it was. So there was another one with Bill Burr and H3H3. That I think that's like the most viewed video on their channel. And if you watch enough of their videos, you'll see that I posted that this, like, your videos are hilarious, like a year ago. But yeah, it's just like it's all this extrapolation based off of their random body language and being like, who's the most dominant in the room? There's this
who's the alpha?
Yeah, which is the problem with Gad Sad. I forget
Yeah.
I forget what his thing is. What is it, like behavioral? What is it called again? Do you know?
Oh, what is his specialty?
What is his specialty?
I gotta look this up. Evolutionary psychology.
I've read a lot of very well-reasoned critical analyses of evolutionary psychology, and just how all of it is just like kind of bullshit. But it seems like a lot of evolutionary psychologists, and maybe I'm painting this whole thing with like just a wide brush here. Whatever. I'm just bullshitting right now. But like it seems like they're very obsessed with male and female behavior and how that interacts, and like who's the alpha in this situation. and just it's almost like pickup artist stuff. It's very weird. It's pretty hilarious at the same time, though. I don't know.
I'm torn on this. So like, I can't believe I'm doing this again, but this is, I'm trying to express how difficult it is to kind of get a sense of how things work and to feel good about it. And as time goes on, the worse I feel, like the less confident I am with anything. You're talking about behavioral analysis and body language and things like that, and it being complete shit. And I think it is. And then I think about something like playing cards. For people who have hung around the after show, a couple of weeks ago I talked about this. I spent several years playing a lot of cards live in from Las Vegas to Romania, I guess.
You're like a pro poker player?
And this was many years ago, like 15 years ago. I played a lot of cards and did some traveling.
Awesome.
And so there's things that are absolutely true, though. And one of the really simple basic ones is if somebody is a mess with how they stack their chips in front of them, they tend not to be a terribly careful player. If somebody is meticulously counting and stacking them and all their chips are in perfect stacks of 10 and it's in a pyramid, if they're really like accounting the whole time, they're probably putting that same amount of thought into their plays. They're not just doing shit willy-nilly and taking big risks. This isn't perfect. Sometimes it's a mismatch, but usually there's a correlation there. Reckless chip guy is reckless play guy. Meticulous chip stacker is very careful better. So I don't know what to think. I don't know what to think with body language analysis. And then there's some trait like that where I can extrapolate something that's true more times than it's not out of, goofy behavior. So
I think
what do you do?
There are certain things that you can intuit about someone's body language. For example, they're walking down the sidewalk and they're looking at the ground. Are they depressed or are they looking for coins, right? They're probably depressed. They're slouched over. Yeah. They're just like their eyes are to their feet. They're probably in a sad place. But when you want to quantify these things and you want to have a whole field of study for it, I do think it gets to this almost like horoscopy kind of like we're intuiting things based off of whatever things that can't be quantified. I don't know. Like I remember there was this one kind of famous clip with Gadsad and Joe Rogan, where Gadsad is explaining like what makes a woman attractive, and he's explaining the study he did, Gadsad et al., where he gets test subjects to fondle the breasts of a mannequin to explain what breast size is more attractive to a man. And it's like, and Joe Rogan calls him out. It's like, it's a mannequin. And it's the most reasonable thing in the world. Like, yes, it's a mannequin. So like it has no bearing on reality. I don't know. I don't even want to say a lot of these studies. That's like the only study I know. So yeah, okay. So I'm going to be as reasonable about this as I can and not really say either or, whether it's bullshit or not. But it is something that I'm extremely skeptical about, evolutionary psychology.
Well, it's good to be, I think, skeptical of most sciences, as that ended up being sort of like the through line of this podcast. And as people who, think about this stuff a lot and read about it a lot, I definitely felt and have felt over the years. I know that you speak with actual scientists. I am not an actual scientist. And you glean a lot of really interesting information about how skeptical they are. I mean, I know that we're running long and we really want to get to some of our patrons' questions for you. But I'll just say really briefly that I became a lot more skeptical of science after interviewing actual scientists, because the way that, when I was saying earlier about like weasel words and really, Matt, you're right. It's more about just being kind of hyper careful and selective with the language. Holy cow. Do you want to talk to somebody who's going to be hyper careful and selective with the language, talk to an actual researcher, because they will not definitively say anything within 1,000 miles of what you're trying, of what you know, Oki or me, like Kevin making a YouTube video, is trying to be able to like parse and communicate in a YouTube video. Like, they do not have a pole long enough to get away from most of the things that we want to talk about. I swear to God.
Interject really quickly? I started interviewing these scientists while I was doing the gay frogs video, and one of the first questions I had for all of them, does it turn the frogs gay? None of them would definitively answer that question. None of them. And I asked it in many different ways, and I was like, look, just level with me. Just throw me a bone. Just give me something. None of them would definitively answer that question. They realize, I think that what you're speaking to, Kevin, what they realize is that there needs to be more studies. It's never going to be definitive. There always needs to be more studies.
Right. And then better studies for those, and then better peer reviews for those, and then analyze who did the peer review and how that study went. And it is just a spiral of science. The spiral. I believe in the spiral of science.
Think about it. Think about it. Gravity isn't it's not an objective thing. We can't just be like, gravity is a thing that happens. And yes, this is 100% what's happening. And this is our explanation of it is what's happening. It's still a theory.
Although
the moral of the story here,
I promise, if you jump off the roof, it's not going to go well.
It's obvious. That's what I'm saying. It's like even the things that are most rooted in reality are still suspect to question.
I think the moral of this whole episode is trust no one and never leave the house.
Yeah.
If you could take two things away from this whole chat, it's that. You can't trust your mother, your father. You can't trust them.
Can't trust Popeye.
You can't trust Popeye. You can't trust your teachers. You can't trust anybody. Your doctor. No. Stay in your room. Don't leave the house. And then you just have to worry about trusting you.
Oh. The most untrustworthy of them all.
Yeah, right.
Yourself, the man.
The person who's
mirror.
most full of shit is always yourself.
Always
I don't trust myself.
Let's go to some questions.
We got a few here, and it's a mix. First one I'm going to do is from your partner in podcasting, the Kino Corner. The Kinocast, which we'll put the links in the description. I mentioned the Ghost Gum episode that will be out by the time this is dropped.
The Kinocast, best podcast in the universe.
But yeah, second best. But yeah,
I will fight you on that. All right, TCU people, we'll fight you on the Kinocast. It's probably the best podcast ever made.
Well, I really didn't understand. I didn't know how deeply you were into film and how knowledgeable you were about it. And Kino certainly is. Yeah, and you guys are a good pair for that. I like the concept of it a lot. But he wants to know, why is Blade Runner 2049 your favorite movie?
Well, let me tell you, Kino. So the funny thing is, we've already had a conversation about this where I said that Blade Runner 2049 isn't even. I don't really even like it. I don't even like the original Blade Runner that much. But it's both of them are like, I respect them more so than I like them. I think that both of them are actually kind of boring, to be honest. All the nerds in the comment section in the Discord are probably going to get really mad at that. Whatever. Including Kino.
This is going to go badly.
Kino, because Kino is a total nerd. I don't know. Why is it the best movie? Because Denis Villeneuve, French-Canadian wonderkin Denis Villeneuve, is saving cinema. He's just like, he pumps out movies and all of them are fucking, they get high ratings on Rotten Tomatoes. And, I don't know if he's won an Oscar yet, but he should. He's saving cinema. What else can I say?
That's a fair answer.
I'll tell you my Blade Runner 2049 story real quick. I never go to the theater, but I went to see that because I needed to see that in the theater. And I was one of, I think, 4 people in the theater. And as it ended and, the credits were rolling, the guy in front of me stands up and starts walking out with his girlfriend. And all they said to each other was, he goes, "Well, that was long."
I feel like that's like a lot of movies that I watch that are like they're legitimately good movies, and then you watch them with like kind of like a normie audience, and yeah, you walk into the theater and they're just like, yeah, that was kind of shit. But like, I really respect, I genuinely respect the craft of Denis Villeneuve, and the first Blade Runner, Ridley Scott, and and the subsequent remake, Blade Runner 2049. I respect those movies more than I enjoy them.
Well, we're going to switch gears a little bit, but we'll pull a cinema person in there. This is from the Grinning Reaper. Alex Jones versus Peter Dinklage. Who wins?
Okay, well, so Peter Dinklage playing this character in Game of Thrones, or Peter Dinklage?
That's up for debate.
I'll go with him playing this character in.
Okay.
I think that both of them are great fictional characters. I'll leave it at that.
Oh, that's a good twist. Yeah, that's a good twist. So you won't take a position.
I won't stack them
anything
against each other, but both of them are very compelling fictional characters.
This is from Albie. Thoughts on the extra dimensional elves?
Well, the extra dimensional elves. Last I heard, they were on Jupiter. They've been moving. They've been traversing through the galaxy, and they're almost about to hit Earth. They did. They were the ones who actually. They're behind the Loch Ness monster, and so a lot of fuckery there. Pretty much every single mythological figure, Bigfoot, right? Easter Islands, right? They're behind all of that shit.
Mm-hmm.
The interdimensional elves, they're shapeshifters, and also, like all good conspiracy theories, they're also pedophiles. So watch out for them.
Oh God. We're reaching Pizzagate territory. Let's see. So this is from Trev. This is really good because we didn't talk a lot about your process, and you do take a long time between videos because you go so in depth. I think there are probably like 18 or 20 on your channel. Does that sound right?
Something like that. Yeah, since 2017.
Yeah. Right. So Trev asks, you take a long time between videos. How do you determine what subjects are interesting enough for you to do these lengthy deep dives into research?
They have to have a narrative, three act structure. They have to be compelling, entertaining. Okay. I'm an entertainer first before I don't call myself a journalist. I am reticent to even call myself a documentarian, but I guess that's kind of what I'm doing. But yeah, first and foremost, I'm an entertainer, and I pick wild and weird subjects. And one of the favorite videos I've ever made on my channel is actually the Steve Rocco video, which is about a guy who, excuse me, I just burped. Which is about a guy who he was a troll. And he believed in this conspiracy called the Partnership, and he believed that he got elected to the school board in the Orange Unified School District in California. And for 4 years, throughout all of their meetings, the school board meetings, he just talked about the partnership. And eventually he believed that his colleagues on the board wanted to kill him. And, they tried to do a recall and they tried to get rid of him. And eventually they just like gerrymandered him out of his district and couldn't run again. But the whole narrative to that is like so perfect to me because it ends, especially like the denouement is it ends with him stealing a half-empty bottle of ketchup from a local university because he wants to kill, or he wants to like not necessarily kill, but he wants to confront a guy who made a documentary about him. But he steals a half-empty bottle of ketchup in between that, and it goes to Superior Court in the state. Oh. So it's just this beautiful narrative, and he continues to run for elections in Orange County even since then. So
Well, good luck to him and his future of his political career.
He's so funny. I love him.
So you just told a long, crazy story about this guy. Dan the Latch asks about this. What did you do before you focused on YouTube, and where'd you learn to tell stories so well?
Okay, so I think I'm still trying to learn. I don't think I've gotten to the point where like I'm, great at it or anything, but I am learning. I learn a lot just doing this, but yeah, no, I was writing screenplays. My dad owns a pharmacy, right? So I was actually a pharmacy technician before this. So that's what I was doing. And I mean, I still help out at the pharmacy here and there, but not as much anymore. But I was also writing screenplays. I was writing novels. I was watching a fuck ton of movies. I was studying them. Yeah, there was a lot of work that went into understanding stories before I started this channel. And actually, when I started this channel, it was because I procrastinated. I was supposed to write 2 scripts for a screenplay contest, and I fucked off on that. And then instead, I started making these weird YouTube videos where I talk about how gay Jean-Claude Van Damme is. Like that's what I ended up doing, and it was funny to me and it was fun, and it worked on Reddit, and I got views, and yeah, pretty early on, like in 2017. Well, it was very late 2017. I was already like, some of my earliest videos on this channel, they would get like 400 upvotes on our videos and shit. So it was pretty immediate that I had almost like 16K subs.
Wow, that's a good jump start.
Yeah, it was great. I don't think Reddit works that way anymore, though.
Doesn't seem to. Weast talked a little bit about that a couple months ago, and the Reddit ecosystem seems to drive traffic a little bit differently than it used to, and it doesn't seem like the resource for YouTubers getting started that it was back in the past.
I have no idea how it would start a brand new channel without, having this one to bolster it. I don't know what someone should do at this point. Because back then it was like Reddit was just like, yeah, it just worked. I don't know if it works as much anymore.
Well, on videos, Dojangles has a specific question. Would you ever make a Scientology video, and or are you going to appear in hers?
Yeah, I'll appear in Dojangles' video. Yeah, she's cool. I like her. She's very nice.
Participation. She is a nice girl. Participation confirmed. It's on the record. It'll be in the digital archives now.
I'll say this. The Scientology video that I've been planning for a very long time is to read L. Ron Hubbard's pulp books, his science fiction books, and talk about them and rate them. But everything,
like you said, there's
like 1,000. He's literally one of the most prolific pulp novelists of all time. But I think that everything else has been said about Scientology. There's nothing left to say, right? So
it's tough at this point. Yeah. Well, that's good. Kino Corner has a question that, boy, it seems to involve us. Will you be open to have the Create Unknown on the Kinocast?
Kino was telling me that Kevin's favorite movie is Ghost Dog, so I'd be down to talk about that. I love that movie.
Yeah, that one may be a Kevin only.
You should rewatch it. We can talk about it. It's fun. I love that movie.
Yeah, it is good.
I've only watched 3 movies in my life. The Last Mohicans, which I talked to Kino about
I like that movie,
a while ago, maybe a year ago.
It's a good one.
It's good. Yeah. It's quite good. And the only other 2 movies worth watching are Rocky IV and Over the Top. So
you know what? Those are like 3 legitimately good movies. So good for you.
Oh.
Did he just come?
Yeah.
What just happened?
Kevin, I'm going to engineer your death.
You just jizzed?
I'm plotting to bump Kevin off the Create Unknown. So finally, somebody who appreciates good art can be.
Hey, I like Rocky IV and Over the Top. I like those movies. Since when do I not like those movies? I think they're great. They're great. However, there are a lot of other movies that are also great. I don't limit my purview of great film to 3 movies only. And then
but I don't think you understand.
Call it a day on the entire
I don't think you understand.
Medium.
No, No, you don't know how it works. And this shows the limitations, like how unsophisticated you are with film. You think these other movies exist, but you don't understand why. So Rockies 1, 2, and 3 were a build up to 4. And the ones after 4 were meant to show how good you had it with 4. Like those are the purposes. And people talk about Rocky 1 all the time as being this great piece of film. No. This is just the beginning. This is the setup for the Cold War battle of all time.
Yeah.
I thought you were going someplace else with that. And instead, 4, you just stick with Rocky.
I'm going to be honest. Rocky 4 is not as good as the first one. The first one is the best movie, the Rocky series.
Yeah,
it's just genuinely way better.
It's
but like,
certainly
I do love the
most
campiness of like all of the other Rocky movies. Then it ends up getting too serious with like Rocky 6, and then especially like the offshoots with Creed. Like then it gets like, it's just like crowd pleasers that are taking itself too seriously. But I love it when Rocky, like he had that robot in his house, and it's just stupid.
Tom Videoger just put the robot in the episode chat, and Sylvester Stallone said he wanted to recut Rocky 4 and delete the robot, and there was outcry on Twitter.
That is,
Yeah.
I am okay with people assassinating him in a video game if he does that.
Imagine
in a video game.
Minecraft.
In a video
Stop
game.
this.
In a video game.
I need. Stop. Let's listen. Let's just think about the gall it takes to feel like you need to recut Rocky 4, as if removing that robot suddenly like turns it into some sort of magnum
Citizen
opus.
Kane.
It's preposterous on its face that it's like, if only there were no robot, it would have been
without the
perfect.
robot. It's Citizen Kane.
Exactly.
That robot matters, though. It matters in the film because it shows like the weird extension of Rocky's lavish life to the point where Paulie has his own service robot. Like that, setting that whole scene up it gives you the contrast in breaking it down to the basics where you're chopping wood in Siberia.
Right.
Like you have to have that contrast.
There are only
It
two
serves a
places in the
purpose.
world that I want to visit. I've never been to America, right? But if I go to America, right, I'll go to Pizzagate. I'll go to the pizza parlor, Comet Pizza, and I'll eat there. And I'll enjoy it. I'll take a selfie there, and I'll also go to Philadelphia to the Rocky Steps. That's what I'll do.
Yeah,
I'm actually gonna visit.
God, what a weird vacation. What a weird bucket list.
I'm actually gonna visit America for the first time for VidCon in October. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
We will be
good.
there.
I can't wait to see people
We
with
will
like
be
guns
there
on their hips
with-
and whatever is happening.
Yeah, that's not so much Anaheim.
Yeah, to be
guns
fair,
on their
yeah.
hips.
Convention Center, Disney side.
What are you talking about? What do you think that America is
That's
like?
my interpretation of
The best
America.
part-
Is just like everybody has fucking assault
Oh my
rifles
God.
strapped to their back, and they have a hamburger
The
in their
funniest
right
part to
hand
me
and a Glock in their
is
left.
You're in Toronto. Like that's literally so close that I fly out of Toronto sometimes because the drive is reasonable. Like you're not like 7,000 miles away from the US. You know, you could like kick a football and have it land across the border.
Yeah, the Buffalo Bills play there,
That
for
is
God's
true.
sakes.
That is true.
Right.
Look, I'm just gonna say, I don't know. Like, I just want America to meet my expectations. I just want to see someone with a Glock on their hip. That's it. That's why deny me my fantasy?
Well, you can go to Penn Station in New York, and you can see like the army in Penn
that's
Station.
true. Yeah.
You can see some decent guns there. Otherwise, not really the case.
All right.
Slush suggests going to Israel, and that is the truth. Plus, you get the best named gun in the world. You get to see the IWI Tavor. They make fine weapons that they named after me.
Nice.
Let's see. We got a couple questions, and then you're out. This is from Dr. MacArthur. This is good. Let's go full conspiracy theory. Let's say one of these is real. Is it more likely that chemicals in the water would turn you gay or turn you into a frog?
Well, there's the there's the fable of the prince and the prince who you kiss it and then turns from a frog into a prince. So I mean, it's been documented. We have the documents. You kiss the frog and it can turn into a prince. In all honesty, I have no way to answer that question because it's fucking stupid. But yeah. Sometimes you kiss a frog and it'll turn into a prince.
I think the official answer of which one would happen is yes.
Yes, with the Chad face. Yes. Yes.
Yes. Chad face, yes. Penultimate question is also from Kino. When is the boxing match against Miles Power?
Do you guys know about my beef with Miles Power?
Nope. I don't even know who Miles Power is.
Can you summarize?
So Miles Power made a 3-part series.
Isn't that Tails' real name from Sonic the
that's,
Hedgehog? Oh no, that's Miles Prower.
Apparently he's one letter off from a fictional rodent. But anyway, Miles Power is a guy who made a 3-part series about like gay frogs, and he just used like shill blogs to bolster his point. And I called him out, and then we had this whole beef, and I asked him to debate me, and I was like, "Debate me, bro, debate me." And he didn't want to do it, and it's been 7 months, and he's never made a reaction video to my gay frogs video, even though he's like, "Oh, it's bullshit." So yeah, Miles Power, still waiting on the video. 7 months later. All right.
We'll get Keem to set this boxing match up.
I would box him.
Keem can work his magic, and
I got a mean right hook, bro. I get him in the kidney and then the face. I'll do like a 2 double.
Oh God!
Tap, just kidney face. Very technical.
Why do I get the feeling that the more you talk about this, the more likely we are to be named in the lawsuit?
Oh, please no.
I was like, go on.
We got the last one, and it's a good one. It's from Marco, who says wants to know what do you consider things to help you like stay motivated with making these videos, especially when they take forever to do. It's not like writing 100 poems. It's like writing a one long novel. And really, what makes you happy along the way?
I mean, learning as much as I can. That's like a lot of what I'm doing is just like learning. I love the idea that I'm able to learn things and present it to people. I make money, and not like I make pretty decent money at this point, just learning things and presenting it to people. And that makes me extremely happy. So yes, I do deal with issues with motivation. Like I actually have ADHD. So, that's a dysregulation in motivation. So it's not always that like I can always just find it in me to just, finish things. But I spend a good amount every single day working on things, and it doesn't necessarily feel like work because I think I'm a genuinely curious person, and what I do makes me very happy.
I think that's a theme with a lot of the people we talk to, is that they all seem to be genuinely, sincerely curious and enjoy the process of satisfying that curiosity. I think that's pretty critical with virtually anything. Does that sound like a fit, Kevin?
Yeah, man, it's really hard to work on a thing for 3 months unless you really want to, and unless you're like really enjoying that process. I think most people would give up, after day 3 of a thing, unless they were interested in plowing through. We went long, and there are still things that I didn't even mention, questions I didn't ask, but we'll just have to save that for next time. Things about like John McAfee, for instance, things about Jacob Wohl, for instance. There's a lot. So I highly encourage people to go to Oki's Weird Stories on YouTube. You will it's like a rabbit hole channel. Imagine if a channel was just a rabbit hole. That's Oki's Weird Stories. It's like literally based upon the concept of a rabbit hole. So definitely check that out. Check out Kinocast. Also, I found the NPR article that I mentioned about plastics recycling. I'd love to throw that in to the description for people to check out. If you just want to Google it, it's called How Big Oil Misled the Public into Believing Plastic Would Be Recycled. And it's on NPR.org. You can also just Google NPR plastic lie or recycling lie, and it will come up. And I encourage people to do so because it absolutely blew my mind. And I think it would blow anybody's mind who actually read the thing. And that's why I've just been surprised to hear crickets about this thing. But listen, hey, thanks so much for hanging out with us, and thanks for hanging out with us for so long that your bladder almost popped. That was really gracious of you.
Very, very fun. Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Awesome. And thanks to all of our patrons for hanging out in the episode chat. Thanks to all of the lurkers who are new here and were just listening in on our conversation. We do this every single Wednesday night because Wednesday night is TCU night. Wednesday night is TCU night. We are here. And if you want to join the episode chat while you're lurking, just go to patreon.com/thecreateunknown, start as a $2 tot, and then work your way up into our conspiracy, our world where you'll be inundated with truths that you just never knew were out there. We're like the X-Files if it were a real organization in podcast form. Matt, you got anything else before we sign off?
Yeah, trust nobody, never leave the house. The end.
Perfect.
Science is fake.
There you go. See you, Space Cowboys.
Thanks for listening to The Create Unknown. We'd like to extend a huge thank you and congratulations to the Tots and Dumpster crew who save tiny little lives every month. A tremendous shout out to our elite baby gang: Trevstead, Boromir, Bot Dogs, Chinchilla, Isaac, Conrad, James, Jeff Davis, Patrick Pister, Baseweight, and Dojangles. And thank you to our grizzled, battle-hardened child infantry: Jen Mefisanti, Kevin Menard, Mikhail Steinke, Risebread, Sean Malone, Triple Question Mark, Monaghan, Ryan Kinder, Sheep, and Maruko. Thank you as well to our producer and editor Ben Webster and to our media manager Dan Yosua. The Create Unknown is an Unknown Media production.